It wasn't the betrayal that hurt. It was how easy it was for them. The night it started, Riverbend felt small, like the town had shrunk around me. My studio over the hardware store hummed with the old soda cooler downstairs, and the neon open sign flickered against the blinds. I was sorting invoices from the shop when my phone buzzed. Emily's name lit the screen with a short message. "We need to talk. Tonight." I drove to the far end of Willow Street, where the gravel lot meets the river. Spring air pressed cold against the windshield. Emily stood by her car, jacket clenched with both hands. She didn't hug me. She didn't even say my name. Instead, she looked at the water and told me she'd been feeling sick for weeks. I tried to make a joke about bad takeout. She didn't laugh. Then she said the sentence that folds a life in half. "I'm pregnant." My brain stalled. Sounds stretched thin, like the river had swallowed them. For a second, I could hear the buzzing fluorescent bulb at the gas station across the road. I asked the obvious question without moving my mouth. She kept staring at the water and nodded once. Yes, this was real. This was us. Or so I thought. I did the math like a reflex. 10 weeks, give or take. We had been together long enough for it to make sense. A tiny, stunned warmth tried to rise in my chest. I asked if she was okay. She said she was scared. I told her we'd figure it out, step by step, the way people do when it's hard but possible. I said we should talk to my parents soon, maybe after Sunday service at Cedar Ridge Chapel. My mom, Susan, always moves fast on logistics. My dad, Robert, likes a plan on paper. We'd make one. Emily's shoulders tightened. She said she wasn't ready to tell anyone yet. Not my parents, not hers, not even my brother, Ryan. She kept saying the word, yet like it had claws. Then she said there was more she needed to say, but not here. Not in a parking lot with a blinking pump and a bored cashier pretending not to watch. She promised she'd call tomorrow. She touched my sleeve and pulled back like it burned. Driving home, I rehearsed the speech for my parents anyway. I saw my mom at the kitchen island, already setting out plates. I heard my dad's measured pause before he asked the practical questions. I pictured Ryan leaning in, smirking like always, the family's golden son who never seemed to pay for the mess he made. None of those thoughts stuck. The only thing that stayed was Emily's voice catching on that word yet. Back in the studio, the shop smelled like sawdust and machine oil. I sat on the edge of the mattress and stared at the scuffed floorboards. I tried to pray, then felt stupid for doing it like a kid before a test. I counted to 10 and started a list. Doctor. Budget. Apartment big enough for a crib. We could handle this. People handle worse. The phone stayed silent. Out the window, a freight train dragged past the river bend, slow enough that you could read the graffiti in full. I waited for her call until the neon sign downstairs timed itself off. Before I killed the lamp, a thought finally landed. If there was more to say, then the part I'd heard tonight wasn't the hard part. I told myself that tomorrow would bring clarity. I believed it for exactly 3 breaths. Then sleep sank its hooks and let me drift, already pulling me toward the thing I didn't see coming. Morning scraped at the windows like a dull coin. Riverbend woke slow, trucks coughing by the bend, the hardware store below rolling up its metal grin. I made coffee that tasted like copper and checked my phone every 5 minutes. Nothing from Emily. The neon open sign blinked twice, undecided, then held steady. I knew the feeling. At 11:30, my screen finally lit. Her voice came thin and careful, each word placed so nothing inside it spilled. She asked to meet at the footbridge behind the old mill. Not a diner. Not my studio. A place with wind and water to swallow the parts we couldn't. The bridge groaned under us. Early gusts pushed shivers across the river. Emily stood with one hand on the rail, hair tied back, shadows under both eyes. Daylight made everything honest. She started with the surface. Timelines, nausea, late-night searches, numbers that should have felt solid. I nodded and kept my mouth still. The river knocked a branch against a piling. Somewhere a dog barked twice and gave up. She pressed her lips together like holding a word with teeth. I told her I could take it. That sounded brave until it landed in the air between us. She drew one long breath and let it loose. It's not yours. I'm sorry. Sound thinned to almost nothing. I could hear the wind scraping each slat under our shoes. My brain did the math wrong 3 times and refused the right answer. The rail felt cold and ridged under my palms. I didn't look at her. I stared at the current and waited for it to move this for me. She kept talking because silence hurts faster than anger. It started, she said, when I was working late to stack savings. One bad decision tried to cover another. She used me like a blanket you pull over a fire. The flames still showed through. I asked who, but only with my eyes. She knew the question anyway. Emily didn't turn until the name was ready. Her mouth trembled. It's Ryan. Everything obeyed that name for a second. The wind paused. The river forgot to ripple. Heat rushed my face and left nothing behind but metal on my tongue. Memory did a fast, ugly montage. Sunday dinners where he spoke and everyone leaned in. Nights I covered his shifts because he had a can't miss. My parents calling him talented, promising he just needed support. Maybe I was the support, a quiet scaffold he climbed without looking down. Emily tried to frame it as a mistake. Then another mistake to fix the first. He knew about the baby. He asked for time. Time, like the bend in the river that hides whatever comes next. She asked if I hated her. I told her I didn't know my shape yet. She asked what I would do. I said the only thing that didn't set the bridge on fire. I would talk to my family. That word made her flinch. Family has edges when you say it out loud. We stood until a freight horn broke the spell and pushed everything forward again. She wiped her face with her sleeve. She said she'd tell her parents soon, just not today. She offered to come with me. I pictured my mom's voice cracking into pieces, my dad measuring disaster with his jaw, and Ryan playing innocent until the last possible second. I told her I'd handle it. The truck's steering wheel felt like someone else's. I drove on muscle memory. Left at the feed store, straight past the ball fields, right on Maple Avenue where the houses keep each other's secrets. My parents' place wore its blue door like a clean shirt. The lawn lines were perfect because my dad cuts them by schedule. Ryan's car waited at the curb, casual as a thrown shoe. Of course it did. I killed the engine and listened through the kitchen window. Plates touched down. My mom, Susan, sounded bright and busy, which is what she does when she's holding the world together by habit. Ryan laughed at something. My dad said, "Let's keep it simple," in the tone that means nothing will be simple. Air pressed tight around the porch, like the house had leaned closer to hear me breathe. My hand hovered over the doorbell. I could knock. I could turn around. I could wait for a version of this that hurt less. None of those were real. If something was going to break, better it break clean. Ryan opened the door before my finger reached the bell. He wore the polite face he saves for neighbors. The kitchen glowed with oven heat and lemon cleaner. My mother moved fast and bright. My father polished a glass already clean. Ordinary sounds, fridge hum, loud clock, made the room feel rehearsed. No one sat. I said Emily was pregnant. My mother covered her mouth, then reached for napkins that didn't need arranging. My father asked for details in that calm, useful tone. Ryan stared at the backsplash like he'd been studying it. I said the second part. The baby wasn't mine. The words landed without volume, only weight. My mother blinked hard. My father stopped moving. Ryan finally looked at me, not shocked, just ready. He started his version. After a family dinner I'd skipped, he'd checked on Emily. We'd been distant, he said. People make mistakes when they feel unseen. He spread the heat thin, like butter. It still burned. My mother reached for him first. She said he was brave to speak and told me not to rush to judgment. God's plan, Jake, she added, like a soft bandage. My father suggested we see Pastor Mark Davis before saying anything we couldn't pull back. Ryan kept talking about intentions and confusion and time. Meaning isn't the same as doing. I gave the bridge, the timeline, the way Emily couldn't say my name when she said the rest. My mother flinched at the word bridge. She asked me to lower my voice, though I wasn't loud. My father talked about patience. Ryan talked about grace. No one talked about me like I was in the room. I asked Ryan to own it. Not later. Now. He let seconds pass, then said he loved me and would take responsibility. It sounded like something you say in a meeting. He never used the word father. He looked skilled, not sorry. My mother straightened forks and turned the salt so the S faced forward. She asked me to forgive him because families survive forgiveness better than war. My father proposed space. I should go home and come back Sunday after service. Space felt like exile with good manners. I looked at the blue door we painted when I was 14 and saw how quickly the room aligned around Ryan's comfort. He put a hand on my shoulder like we were teammates. I let the gesture pass through me and didn't move. I said I'd speak to Pastor Mark, too. My mother exhaled relief, as if a test had ended. My father said we were doing the right thing. Ryan smiled, that small practice smile he wears when he's sure the floor will hold. I reached the door before anyone could bless me with a closing line. Outside, the air bit sharper than it should. My phone buzzed once and went still. I didn't look. Some messages stall on purpose. If something was going to break, I wanted it to break with witnesses. Cedar Ridge Chapel was empty except for the hum of the soda machine and sunlight laying squares on the carpet. Office hours, mid-afternoon, the church smelling like paper, coffee, and old hymnals. I expected a lecture about patience. Pastor Mark surprised me with a question that cut straight. Do you want comfort or candor? I said I wanted the truth to stand up without wobbling. He nodded like that made his job easier and harder at the same time. We sat in his small office with the cross turned slightly, as if even it had to listen. I told the story without embroidery. The parking lot, the footbridge, Emily's word with teeth, Ryan's readiness, my parents reaching for peace faster than facts. Pastor Mark kept his hands still. He asked for dates and places, not feelings, then let the feelings arrive anyway. He repeated the facts back to me in clean lines, the way you read a label when you don't trust the sales pitch. When I finished, he stared past my shoulder for a breath and spoke in the voice he uses at funerals and hard weddings. This, he said, was not a misunderstanding. It was a breach of trust, followed by choices to hide it. He said forgiveness is holy, but it is not a broom. He said grace without accountability becomes enabling, and enabling breeds more harm. He didn't use the word sin like a hammer. He used it like a diagnosis. I told him my parents wanted to keep it simple. He said simplicity is honest when truth makes it simple, not when fear makes it tidy. He didn't push reconciliation or revenge. He pushed clarity. He asked what I needed from my family that would let me sleep like a human being again. I said I needed Ryan to say the word father out loud and stop waiting for me to carry his weight. I needed my parents to stop treating balance as fairness when the scale was already tilted. He offered to mediate. We could meet here, he said, no pot roast, no oven timer, no lemon cleaner telling everyone to behave. He would keep the room from drifting into speeches. Everyone would say one thing at a time. He would ask the questions that make people step on their own truth. He also said something I didn't expect. I was allowed to leave if the room turned into theater. Leaving is not quitting, he said. Sometimes it is what keeps you from breaking. I felt my shoulders drop like I'd set down something heavy without noticing I carried it. Pastor Mark asked about Emily. I told him she wanted time, and then said the word time back to him like it tasted off. He didn't argue. He said babies do not wait for adults to get brave, and hard conversations borrow courage from deadlines. He said he would call my parents and ask them to come tonight if possible. He would invite Ryan, too. No whispering in hallways. No side meetings. We would put the pieces on the table where everyone could see them. He dialed while I sat there watching dust move in the window light. He spoke in that careful tone people use when they carry a glass of water to a sickbed. He didn't give details, only a frame. There was harm. We would seek truth. He would host. When he hung up, he said my mother listened, then paused long enough to sound like a decision. My father kept his voice formal. Ryan was available, which meant he had already scripted his part. We set a time, 7:30, after dark, when the chapel would be quiet and the parking lot half-lit. Pastor Mark said he'd open the side door so we didn't have to cross half the foyer like we were auditioning. He asked if I wanted him to start with prayer. I said I wanted him to start with rules. He smiled once. Brief, like a man who's seen enough rooms explode to respect sandbags. On the way out, he stopped at the sanctuary and stood with me in the third pew. He didn't preach. He reminded me that anger warns of violation, not weakness. He said to keep my voice level and my sentences short because truth travels straighter when it isn't panting. Back in the truck, the town looked sharper at the edges. The bend in the river flashed silver between buildings. My phone buzzed before I turned the key. Mom. Susan filled the screen, the name we changed last year when she borrowed my phone and added the tag. Her tone was clipped enough to scratch paint. She said she heard I'd spoken to Pastor Mark. She said we would attend, of course, though this felt unnecessary. She hoped I wasn't escalating. The words sat there like a threat wrapped as advice. Another text landed while she talked. Ryan, we'll keep it civil. Let's not embarrass anyone. That told me everything about his plan. A calm room makes a comfortable villain. Guess who fits the costume? I hung up before my mother could land a blessing that sounded like a verdict. I sat in the quiet and looked at the side door of the chapel, already seeing us file in and take our places like a lineup. I had a witness now. If something broke tonight, it would break in the light. After dark, the chapel felt narrowed, like the walls leaned in to hear. Pastor Mark set 4 chairs in a circle and a dented trash can between them, for tissues and words we don't need. Then 3 rules, 1 voice at a time, only facts. Tonight we name, not fix. If anyone forgets, we stop. My parents sat shoulder to shoulder. Ryan chose the softest light. I faced him. Pastor Mark nodded for him to start, plain words only. Ryan's version was smooth enough to slide. He'd checked on Emily after a dinner I skipped. She was upset. Comfort turned careless. No one meant harm. You could hear the sanding more than the wood. Pastor Mark kept him on yes or no rails until the air thinned. Did you sleep with her? Yes. Did you know she might be pregnant? Yes. Did you tell me before she did? No. Are you the father? A pause, 3 counted seconds, then the word he'd been dodging. Yes. The room clicked hard. My mother twisted a tissue to a string. My father chose his favorite non-word, unfortunate. Pastor Mark didn't flinch. This wasn't confusion, he said. It was a breach, followed by a cover. Grace without accountability is permission, and permission repeats. He asked what I needed to sleep like a human. The answer came simple. Ryan carries his own weight now. No ambushes. My parents stopped calling silence peace. Pastor Mark turned that into rules on the table. Tonight Ryan tells Emily in these words and uses father. He handles the next steps, money, appointments, decisions, without triangulating through me. Any family talk happens in rooms like this with a 3rd chair. Ryan said he accepted responsibility, shaped like a press release. Pastor Mark pinned him to numbers, dates, actions. No we, only I. My mother touched his sleeve like applause. My father said he wanted the family together. Pastor Mark said truth is what keeps families together. Denial only keeps pictures upright. One last piece, a boundary. No coaching texts, no midnight apologies that hand me their laundry. If they need me, they go through Pastor Mark first. My mother called that harsh with her eyes. My father called it formal. Pastor Mark called it healthy. We ended without prayer, no one mistaking amen for closure. In the lot, the river breathed cold. My mother hugged me like contact was risky and asked me not to harden my heart. My father said we'd regroup Sunday. Ryan offered a ride. As if we were teammates, I said I had keys. 2 texts hit before the engine turned. Mom, Susan, proud I was calm, please don't post. Ryan, we can still fix the narrative. That was his worry all along. Story control, not truth. In the mirror, the sanctuary windows glowed like square moons. For the first time all week, my breath belonged to me. And I knew what was coming next. When truth finally stands up, someone always tries to sit it back down. Dawn came gray as steel. Mom, Susan called before my alarm. No hello, just terms. Last night was useful, so no more Pastor Mark. Sunday dinner as usual. Please stop inflaming. Don't speak to Emily without Ryan. Remember the family's reputation. She used escalating like I was a fire. I kept it level. Any messages go through Pastor Mark. That was the rule. She sighed a prayer shaped like a warning and ended with a seatbelt, we love you. By 8, the prayer chain bloomed. A difficult situation, wisdom for all involved. At the shop, a customer tilted his head. My coworker said Ryan posted a river sunrise with a forgiveness verse. His version had a frame now. He was the brave confessor. Emily was scared. I was refusing peace. Pastor Mark texted, holding the line. Direct calls to me. Then Ryan slid in. Let's handle this like men. Noon, the lot. I sent one sentence. All family conversations stay with Pastor Mark. Rain started at noon, steady and polishing. Emily called with her voice ironed flat. She offered 2 doors. 1. Support her quietly. No more meetings, no public accountability. 2. Step back entirely and let her and Ryan move forward. I let silence get heavy and said I wasn't asking for spectacle, only honesty with teeth. The rules were Ryan's, not mine. He says, "Father, he handles plans and money without triangulating through me." She went quiet, then said she had an appointment next week and asked me not to come. It would confuse things. The building grew loud. The coolers hum, a cart's bad wheel. Afternoon brought cousins and elders speaking unfortunate like seasoning. Someone tagged me in a "Choose Grace" post with praying hands. Grace isn't a leash. I updated Pastor Mark. He sent one line. Rules matter most when they're tested. Then, have you eaten? I chewed a bar that tasted like wet cardboard and felt something stubborn settle. Not anger, not yet. Just bones for truth to stand on. At dusk, the rain quit. "Dad," Robert texted, Sunday after service. Next steps as a family. No mention of rules or the word father. Just an agenda and a chair for me to fill. I watched the river turn dark between buildings and heard Pastor Mark again. Anger warns of violation, not weakness. If they planned to sit the truth back down on Sunday, I wouldn't be the cushion. Emily called at mid-morning, already crying. The sound was wet and careful, like she was trying to cry politely. A second voice breathed on the line. Ryan didn't say hello. He said we should handle this with maturity and not make church awkward. Emily asked me not to sit near them at service. It would confuse things, she said, repeating yesterday's line. Ryan added that he'd prepared next steps and would share them after the benediction. It sounded less like a plan and more like a presentation. I reminded them of the rules. No sideshows, no triangulating through me. Ryan said rules were fine for offices. Sundays required grace. He made grace sound like duct tape. Cedar Ridge filled fast. The foyer smelled like coffee and crayons. Eyes grazed me and slid away. Pastor Mark preached quiet and clean, parables about fruit that matches its tree. He didn't look at me, which was how I knew he was looking out for me. During the last hymn, my mother reached across the aisle and squeezed my hand, then released it like she'd been caught. My father stood very tall, the way he does when he's already decided something. After the amen, the stage appeared out of air. Not the pulpit, a circle by the cookie table. My mother gathered 3 elders and 2 couples who loved to pray loudly. Ryan stepped in with the soft light face. Emily hovered at his shoulder, sleeve twisted in her fist. Pastor Mark arrived, not interrupting, just present. Ryan began. He said mistakes had been made, pluralized and softened. He said he had confessed and would own the path forward. He said Emily needed stability. The baby needed stability. This family needed unity. He spoke in soothing paragraphs, the kind you print on glossy paper and hand out at seminars. Heads nodded on rhythm. Then came the price tag. Ryan had found a real opportunity to increase income quickly, consulting for Cobalt Bridge Capital with a crypto side stream through Vanna Token. Entry wasn't cheap, but investing in family never is. He said it like a proverb. My father's jaw shifted into budget mode. My mother made a small approving sound, the one she uses for casseroles and good ideas. Ryan never said a number, just let the word investment shine. He rolled out the script. Co-parenting classes, a public recommitment to values, a timeline for counseling, a curated statement for social if rumors got loud. He said he loves that word, could weather this with dignity if we avoided drama and supported the right lanes. He didn't say truth. He said lanes. Pastor Mark asked one question that kinked the flow. Who pays, exactly? The circle shifted. Ryan said the family could help with entry costs. Returns would cover prenatal bills and create margin. He looked at my father. Then he looked at me, as if my wallet were the final seal. A gesture from Jake would show unity, he said, and let the suggestion hang like incense. I didn't raise my voice. I said the only sentence that still held shape. I won't fund my own erasure. The word erasure startled someone into a cough. My mother said we shouldn't use loaded language in the Lord's house. My father asked if we could please keep it simple. Pastor Mark kept his hands folded and his eyes steady. Ryan pivoted to kindness, the softer blade. He said he understood my pain. He said he wanted peace. He said a small contribution, no number again, would ease the tension and silence unhelpful talk. He called it generosity. I heard hush money. Emily finally spoke. She said she couldn't handle fighting. She said the baby didn't deserve chaos. She said if I loved her at all, I'd help make this easier. Every word sounded borrowed. I remembered the footbridge and the way she couldn't say my name with the rest. My answer landed without decoration. I won't buy a story where I don't exist. The circle exhaled like a tire. One elder touched my shoulder and said everyone sins differently. Pastor Mark stepped in just enough to stop the pile-on. He reminded the group that money decisions weren't prayer request material and that public pressure wasn't accountability. He suggested we end the huddle and speak privately if needed. Suggestion carried like instruction. People dispersed in pairs, whispering clean words that hide sharp edges. Grace, unity, peace. My mother gripped my arm and whispered please in a tone that meant comply. My father asked me to step outside. Ryan stayed with Emily and began collecting sympathetic hands. On the steps, wind knifed through my jacket. My father said there was a practical way forward, a modest loan to help Ryan get set up, a pause on meetings, and no more Pastor Mark. The family needed quiet. Quiet, in our house, is a shape you squeeze into until you forget you had bones. I told him no to the loan, no to the pause, and no to shutting the door on the only room where truth stood up. My father's face didn't move, but something in his eyes did. He said he was disappointed in my rigidity, the word he uses for stubborn mules and broken hinges. I said I'd rather be rigid than bend into a circle. Behind us, a choir kid hit a wrong note and laughed. Ryan's laugh answered from the foyer, warm and practiced. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You don't know what you're walking away from. The signature was a link to Cobalt Bridge Capital. If this was the plan, then the price of their piece came due on Monday. And I knew exactly who they expected to pay. Monday wore a clean shirt and a bad idea. At 8:12 a.m., Dad, Robert texted. He'd moved something small to help Ryan get set up. Loan, not gift. Be positive. An unknown link followed. Cobalt Bridge Capital. Stockbridge banner, 18% monthly, with conservative risk, a pulsing telegram icon, no team page, AP. Oh, box, domain masked by proxy. Testimonials were stock models. One wore a call center headset. I called Pastor Mark. He asked 4 questions, no drama. Who has custody? Where funds park nightly? What license? Who audits and when? I had website perfume instead of answers. He said you can't stop adults from touching the stove. You can keep records and your boundaries. Mom, Susan called it a modest loan and urged good faith. Please don't poison the mood. I said I wouldn't pretend a hole was a bridge. She sighed grace like a leash. Ryan sent a screenshot, deposit received, and a rocket. Ready to show unity? My reply was one boundary. Family talk stay with Pastor Mark. At lunch I printed the site. Their FAQ bragged about proprietary signals and partner wallets. Another line paid ambassadors for new deposits. Ladders and suits. Emily texted, appointment next week. Please don't come. It would confuse things. I said I wouldn't interfere and wished her steady hands. A heart arrived, then vanished. Pastor Mark messaged, asked Dad for the agreement. Dad said it was just an intake, wallet address, referral tag, so Ryan got credit. No contract. I was making things difficult. By 4, Ryan posted a growth dashboard with confetti, perfect diagonals, no axes. He called it compounding. Evening, Dad, keep discussions offline. Family first. Mom, a casserole pic captioned Sunday will be peaceful. I reopened the site. New banner. Founders rate ends Friday, double rewards. Fine print. Withdrawals in 3 to 5 business days, subject to volume. If this was their path, the ground already felt hollow. I didn't know when it would give. I knew exactly what it would sound like. Tuesday started with a promise that smelled like smoke. Ryan posted a story of dashboard confetti and wrote, "First wins." 10 minutes later, my dad forwarded a message from Cobalt Bridge Capital. Withdrawals were processing due to volume. 3 to 5 business days. The same words blinked on their site like a seatbelt sign. By noon, processing spread. Ryan said the delay was normal at founder's rate. He hinted that early partners often grease the rails with a top-up. My dad called from the truck, voice practical. A second wire, small but strategic, could unlock their tier and speed the queue. He said we needed momentum. Momentum is what you call it when the ground moves under you. I asked for basics. License number, custodian, audit, anything with a signature. He offered trust, not documents. He said I'd always had a negative frame. Then he hung up to catch a window. At the shop the day idled. A bolt bin clicked as I sorted washers by size just to give my hands direction. Emily texted a calendar screenshot. Next week's appointment confirmed. She added a line about wanting peace and asked me not to stir things. Peace has been doing a lot of heavy lifting lately. I told her I wouldn't interfere. I also wouldn't fund anyone's version of quiet. By 2, the site added a banner. High demand today. Thank you, partners. The Telegram icon flashed faster. The chat full of rocket emojis and moderators telling new members to trust the process. Trust is a flashlight people sell when the room is dark by design. I called Pastor Mark and read him the updates. He didn't groan or preach. He gave me 4 words that landed like a floor. You don't owe them. Not money. Not silence. Not a soft chair when the truth sits down. I wrote the sentence on a sticky note and stuck it to my wallet. An hour later, my dad texted a screenshot. Wire initiated. He added a thumbs up, then asked me to keep opinions off the family thread. Ryan followed with, "We're almost there. Don't spook the herd." Herd meant me. I put the phone face down and listened to the cooler hum. It sounded like a clock with a cold. After 5, processing tilted into maintenance. The site grated a button and promised upgrades for partner volume. The chat shouted temporary, then silenced anyone who asked where the team was. A new message pinned to the top. Support hours limited this week. Patience is a virtue. Virtue is cheap when it isn't your money. My mother called it dusk. Her voice came wrapped in casserole warmth. She said Dad had stepped up because that's what fathers do. She asked me to show good faith, even if that meant nothing more than staying positive online. I told her I hadn't posted a word. I also told her words weren't the problem. The river threw back a dull shine under the streetlights. I walked the block until the cold kept me honest. Somewhere a train muttered and pulled the town a half-inch to the west. I thought about Ryan's dashboard with its perfect diagonals, about forms without signatures, about a room that asked me to fund my own erasure and call it grace. My phone buzzed once before sleep. Ryan, going quiet for 24 hours while the devs push updates. Don't make noise. It read like a forecast. It felt like a countdown. Maintenance became migration by morning. At noon, the button grayed out again. By 3, Cobalt Bridge Capital loaded a plain page that said security review. At 5, the page didn't load at all. The Telegram chat locked, then vanished. The bridge wasn't down. It was never there. Phones lit like a storm map. Dad called first. Words tumbled. Processing, queue, partners, temporary. I asked for a contract number. He said there wasn't one, but there were screenshots. Screenshots don't cache. He tried the bank. The bank said irreversible. He said unfortunate twice and hung up to try again. Mom called crying. She said she should have listened, then used listening like a towel on a kitchen fire. She asked if Pastor Mark could sort this with a call. Sorting doesn't fix holes in the floor. I told her he would stand with them, not shield them, and gave her his number. She thanked me and apologized and, for once, didn't add advice to the apology. Ryan texted, then called, then pounded the door of my studio like he'd rehearsed both speeches. The first voice was smooth. This was a hiccup. Founders see turbulence. Calm helps withdrawals. The second voice bled through when calm didn't work. He needed cash to bridge while devs restored access. A short-term loan. Family lifeline. He said I was punishing him. He said I wanted him ruined. He said I was making him the villain. Villains don't need help with that part. I kept my voice level. I told him I wouldn't fund my own erasure. I told him pressure lived with him now, not me. He stared hard, hunting for the old version of me who covered messes. When he didn't find him, he tried one more swing. If I cared about Emily, I'd help her by helping him. I told him helping meant telling the truth the same way in every room. He left with his jaw tight and his keys loud. Pastor Mark stayed on the line with me through the worst hour. He didn't say I told you so. He said 4 simple things. Document everything. Answer only once. Keep your sentences short. Let consequences travel to the right address. Then he called my parents and walked them through reality. File reports, talk to their bank, stop sending, stop recruiting. He didn't soften the blow. He held the room while it landed. By evening, processing turned into silence. Dad texted a screenshot that looked like a grave marker. 502 bad gateway. He asked if I could come by. I said I'd meet them tomorrow at Pastor Mark's. Mom replied with a thank you that didn't try to steer me. That felt new. Emily called late. Her voice was small and brave. She said she hadn't known the details, only the gloss. She said the appointment next week would still happen and her mother would go with her. She didn't ask me to come. She said she was sorry for the footbridge, for the word yet, for letting someone else set the script. I told her I wanted steady hands for her and the baby. I didn't say more. Love isn't a tool you hand to someone who can't use it yet. I slept a little, then more. Morning brought the aftershock, the chat gone, the site parked, new accounts locked. Dad sounded older when he said it out loud. The money was likely gone. Mom asked if I could forgive them for pushing quiet. I said yes, eventually, with space. Forgiveness is a door you open from your side. It isn't a leash. On Sunday, we sat in Pastor Mark's office without speeches. Dad admitted the wires were his idea. Mom admitted peace had been camouflage. Ryan admitted nothing beyond a mistake and bad timing. Pastor Mark didn't chase him. He laid the facts on the table and left the blanks staring back. When the meeting ended, he didn't bless the moment like a finish line. He told us to do the work that follows truth. Repair where we can, release what we can't, stop repeating what broke us. Weeks moved. Ryan sold a car and a watch and learned the cost of tears. My parents stopped calling silence peace. They learned to say my name when they meant me. Emily sent one message with a sonogram and no caption. I sent one line back, steady hands. She hearted it and didn't unsend. Riverbend didn't grow bigger, but the air did. I kept the sticky note in my wallet. You don't owe them. Until the paper thinned and the ink turned soft. Some nights the river still sounded like a train pulling town a half-inch west. On those nights, I remembered the footbridge, the circle of chairs, the dented trash can, and the sentence I finally learned to say without shaking. I won't buy a story where I don't exist. It wasn't the betrayal that healed me. It was how hard it became for them the next time they tried to make it easy.